Welcome, welcome. Making sure everything is working. Okay, looks like we got it. Sorry, I'm starting a little bit late. It was a little bit behind in getting started. Whew, it's been a crazy couple of days. Priya, Broke Baker June, hi. She's in Disney. No, I'm home from Disney. Yes, Debbie is right. So I, crazy enough, I was at Disney Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I flew home Monday morning, and I slept. I got up at 2 a.m. to catch my flight. And I slept yesterday instead of preparing for live. So instead of doing Disney treats like I was planning on doing, just because they took a little, I had to like make some of the puff pastries and things like that the day before, so they'd be ready for today. So instead I thought I would do something that is very popular right now, but also incredibly easy, and that is homemade hot chocolate bombs. They've kind of been, they've kind of been everywhere lately. So I'm gonna give you all of my tips and tricks for how to easily make the homemade bombs, as well as tips and tricks for creating your homemade hot chocolate bomb in any flavor. There's a couple of different components where you can change things up and make any flavor that you want. So I have made 4 different flavors for today. Hey, baby girl, Brooklyn, where's my mug, that clear mug? And can you, the mugs, can you give me those white mugs and the clear mug from over there on the table? As well as the small pot in the new pot set. Sorry, we're obviously, oh, that's nice. We're obviously still getting ready. I was trying to make a couple, I had made 4, but I was trying to make 6 different kinds to show you. The small one. No, that's not small. But can you also give me, where's that clear mug that I used for pictures earlier? And there should be a second white one, like that clear white one. Okay, sorry about that. Anyway, so let's see. Amanda, Tracy, Margaret, hello. I did have a wonderful trip. Thank you so much for asking. Claire, Crystal, welcome from Canada. Joe, hi. Good to see you. And, okay, I think I'm cut up. Oh, wow. Paige, you love my hair. Thank you so much. This was, it was super dirty and I didn't have time to wash it. So dry shampoo and a braid. Rami, wonderful to see you. Good to see you too. We're just glad to be here. Oh, thank you, June. You were so sweet. Cooking with Sherry, love the hair. Thank you so much. You were just researching these. Well, good. I'm going to, I made more than 6. I made a lot today as I was playing with it and trying to really figure out what I felt worked best. This sounds a little crackly. Andrea, is it the sound crackly for anybody else? We had one person say that it was crackly yesterday, but most people said that it was okay. So let me know. Well organized. Usually, Rami, I am well organized. Today we're just a little bit behind. So hello from Dubai. Hello, Devki. Okay, Amanda, hi. All right, Iris, hello. Let's get started. So there's a lot of different components to this. So the first thing, let's talk about chocolate for the shells. So I have said this before. It is one of my soapboxes. I say it all the time. Something seems off with the sound. Poo. Do you think it was just the microwave? Is it still going now that the microwave is off? Let me know. All right. Chocolate. I've said it before and I will say it again. Chocolate chips do not melt well. They are not made to melt. They are made to hold their shape at high temperatures of 350, 400 degrees in the oven for baking cookies and holding their shape. So not only will they not melt smoothly for you to melt and put in a mold, but then once they set and are in your cup, if you get past that stage, okay, when you pour the hot milk over it, the bombs themselves will not melt properly. You want to use a chocolate that is going to melt easily to make the shapes, and then once they are the shapes and you're putting them in your mug and pouring the hot milk over them, that will melt quickly, smoothly, and easily in warm milk, right? So I recommend compound chocolate because It doesn't need to be, it's not pure chocolate, and so it doesn't need to be tempered. So you can totally skip the tempering stage and still get a really nice glossy ball. So if you just go to Amazon and search compound chocolate, my favorite is Merkin's. It's the brand that I use the most. I also like Guittard. Guittard? Anyway, both of those brands have great compound chocolates that taste amazing, melt beautifully, and are going to be great for using in this. If you don't want to get chocolate, you can always go with like the almond bark. That is made, again, anything that's made for candies and candy shell, that is made to melt smoothly, and so are like the candy wafers that you can get at Joann's and Michael's and Walmart, and you can get those in a ton of different colors, and those are made to also melt, shape, melt again, right? But for the best flavor, I like the Merkins and the Guittards. Again, just search compound chocolate. Now, there's also the even fancier, more pure chocolate called couverture chocolate, but that you do have to temper to get that beautiful gloss and crunch and shine. Now, is it worth it? Yes. For very high-end treats it is, but for something that I'm going to make cute and either just give to my neighbors or let my kids eat, not so much, in my opinion. But that, of course, is totally up to you. So I have already put some in my microwave. I pushed my melt chocolate button that I love. If you, sorry, the sun is shining a little bit bright. If you don't have a melt chocolate button on your microwave, buy a new microwave. No, you can microwave on high for like 45 seconds, stir. Actually, I would do 50%. I would microwave at 50% for a minute, stir it, and then microwave at 50% for 30-second intervals until it's done. One thing to remember is that when you start stirring it, it's going to look chunky, right? Now, if I'm like, oh, didn't melt all the way, there's still chunks in here, and I microwaved it right away, you run the risk, let's get a little closer. There we go. You run the risk of burning your chocolate, because actually the heat from the chocolate will continue to work. So look how much smoother that is already, and I haven't microwaved it anymore. So make sure that you're really giving it a chance before you go back to microwave more. Make sure that you're really stirring it and I give it, I don't know, I probably give it like 30 to 45 seconds of stirring before I'm like, all right, this definitely has chunks and it needs to microwave a little bit more. All right, I'm gonna let that sit for a second and get the molds out. Let's talk about molds. You can do this in a lot of different sizes. I happen to already have these 2.5-inch round half ball molds from another project that I did. And so I'm like, oh, these seem really big though. Are these too big? So I went and I grabbed a mug, right? And I'm like, oh, that's not too big at all. Here's a more classic mug, right? I get my kids' faces on a mug every year when we do family pictures, so I have one for each year. This was the one when Edward was 1, so she would have been 11. Anyway, it's fun to look at. And even that just fit in just fine. So you can go smaller if you feel like they're too big, but just remember, by going smaller, you'll be adding less hot chocolate mix, and less marshmallows from inside your bomb. And so you'll have a less chocolatey flavor, which is just fine. I will say, these have a very strong chocolatey flavor. So a smaller one is not gonna be a problem. All right, let's check this again now that I kind of let it sit to see if we still have any chocolate chunks. And I do have a little bit, so I'm gonna microwave it for probably another 30 seconds, and then we should be good. Okay, so I have 2 sets of molds, so this will make 6. So you can, I wrote the recipe down in the YouTube description. For those of you watching on Facebook, I will have a blog post up like tomorrow, hopefully. Or you can just head over to the YouTube version of this and open up the description box and there will be the full recipe there. But I wrote it for basically 1 mold, which will make 3 balls. So you can size it up really easily. Let's take a look at this now. All right, and that's looking, there's a couple chunks left, but as I stir this, they are going to go away. So this is looking really good. So I put, and I don't measure this, I just plop, I put about a tablespoon in each of these. And I'm just eyeballing that. I just don't need to get one more thing dirty in order to measure it, because we're going to add a second layer. We're going to do 2 layers of the chocolate shell. So there are a couple different ways to get this to spread. You can use your spatula, but because of how wide it is, when you're smoothing one side, it tends to scrape the other one. So I don't love that. My favorite way is actually, if the chocolate is runny enough, to kind of hold it on its side and shake and just keep going around like this. It does tend to spill over a little bit when you're doing it like this. And then the other way, and just keep going until it's all the way around. Another thing you can do is just grab a small spoon. Hold on, make a smaller one. There we go. A small, like, tasting spoon, right? And you can just kind of smooth that around. Now I focus more on making sure it gets up the sides really nicely, because, like, so my bottom is scraped a little bit right there. But as I shake this, look how that went away, right? This is the one that I just scraped all the sides on, and you can't even see the bottom anymore. So let's really quickly go all the way around each of these, making sure to go all the way up to the edge in all of them. Boop, boop, boop. So this way you don't get quite as smooth of an inside finish, but nobody's ever going to see the inside but you, so that doesn't really matter. And it can be a little faster than doing the method where you're rolling this silicone, and you don't try to watch all 6 at once to make sure one's not spilling more than another. All right. Now the bottom of these is going to be thicker because that chocolate is going to pool at the bottom. There's a couple ways around that, but I'm just going to let it go for now, because in our next round I'm going to focus more on the sides and leave that bottom where it is. Now, if I can tell by looking that some of these are simply too much chocolate, and so I'm just going to take that out. Really easy to do. Okay. Here we go. I'm just going to shake it until all those holes are gone. Okay. So now I'm going to put this in the fridge for about 5 minutes. And while that's in the fridge, we're going to work on making our own hot chocolate mix. Alexa, set timer for 5 minutes.
5 minutes, starting now.
Okay, a quick warning about why you don't want to put them in the freezer. When you put them in the freezer, the temperature change is too much, and you're going to get some blooming where the chocolate actually turns that white color, and that's going to show up on the outside, and you don't want that. So I don't recommend the freezer. All right, so really quickly, let's talk about the flavor options when it comes to the shell. So I just use dark chocolate. That's going to be like more for your standard hot chocolate bomb. You can use dark chocolate, semi-sweet, bittersweet. You could try milk. I don't really recommend milk though, because it has a lower melting point, tends to be softer, But you can get away with it. You just might have to leave them in the fridge longer to get them harder. Another option, like I mentioned before, is using candy melts, and then they're colored. Like I said, I don't recommend chips, but every once in a while, there's a flavor in chips you just really want to use. And in that case, go for it. But again, you want to be careful as you're melting it so that you don't overburn it. Stir more frequently. I found these pumpkin spice, what are they calling them? Baking truffles. So I grabbed those and I melted some and I made one with those. And also I made a peanut butter cup version, and for that I used half compound chocolate, half peanut butter chips, but I will say I used the Merkins, that brand that I like in the chocolate. I used the Merkins peanut butter chips. I feel like they melt better. So obviously there are cases where maybe you will use a chip, but always make sure that you're considering, is there a better option? Like, could you use an orange candy melt and just add pumpkin pie flavoring to it? Is that going to give you the same result that you're looking for or whatnot? So another thing that you can do is add flavoring. So for the peppermint one that I made, I'm going to show you, is I used peppermint oil. Something to remember when adding extracts to chocolate is most extracts are alcohol or water-based, and they're going to make the chocolate seize. So you want to use candy oil that's made it's flavoring oil. It's made specifically for using with chocolate. And I have cotton candy flavored, coconut flavored. I have so many flavors, it's ridiculous. I have cinnamon flavored, creme de menthe, amaretto, one of my absolute favorites with chocolate, cherry, marshmallow, and what's this one? Peppermint. I knew the peppermint was in there somewhere because I just used it. So I have all of these flavorings of oils, and all of those can be used, and they have more than this. All of those can be used to make, to add some flavoring to that chocolate shell. So I was talking with my girlfriends earlier today, and we were talking about different flavors that would work. You could also melt white chocolate and stir in some crushed up Oreos for an Oreo flavor. You can use, I was planning on doing an almond coconut flavoring. I actually tested it earlier today and it works amazing, but I didn't, anyway. I added almond flavoring because I tested it and I drank it, so I didn't have one to show you, and I was going to make another one and I didn't. I used almond within the chocolate, and then for the milk that I poured over the top, I used coconut milk and milk mixed together. Anyway, so chocolate coating, those are the options. Does that make sense to everyone of what you can do for that? You're back on. Hello, Rami. Refresh the stream, it should come back. Good. You've been looking everywhere for these masterclass pans. You haven't, no luck. You go to Kohl's. I was wrong. It's not Kohl's. I said the wrong thing. It is not Kohl's. What is it? Oh, crap, I'm gonna have to look up the store. Hold on, I'm going over to Google Maps because there's one right near me where I get it. But after we got off last week, I was like, it wasn't Kohl's. Where is it? It's, okay, Bountiful. Here we go. TJ Maxx. That's what it is. TJ Maxx. So I'm so sorry that I sent you to the wrong store. Try TJ Maxx. I regretted that immediately after I got off the other day. Okay. Anyway, so does anybody have any questions? You like my nails? Oh, thank you, Sarah. I do them myself. Anybody have any questions about the, man, that's so weird that the picture got frozen. Looks, it still says it's good for me, so fingers crossed. Anybody else have any questions about the chocolate coating and making those shells? Oh, Jill had a suggestion. I actually thought of this when it's on my list. Chocolate, Alexa, stop. Create a Mexican hot chocolate. I was actually going to buy some of that Mexican chocolate. Alexa, stop. I was actually going to buy some of that Mexican chocolate. Alexa, stop. Stop. Oh my gosh. She's like my 5-year-old or something. And see if that melted into a good shell, and then add some like cayenne pepper into the hot chocolate mix itself. Okay, so that we're going to do the second coating now. Okay. Okay, so these, you can see how they've gone dull. And they're starting to pull away from the from right here from the silicone already, but as you can see, it's really, really thin and it's going to break really, really easily. So what I'm going to do now is add some chocolate and focus on the sides, because you can see the bottom is definitely pooled and thicker than the rest of the shell, so it does not need any more. I'm really trying to kind of build up those sides. And now that there's cold chocolate in there, the chocolate that we're adding is going to kind of stick to that and start to chill itself. It's also not as warm as when we first melted it, so it should be easier to get those sides thick without pooling on the bottom, if that makes sense. Okay. And I'm just again using the back of the spoon and building that up. What you want to make sure to do is this warm chocolate kind of remelts what we've already put in there a little bit. So you want to be careful not to like scrape it or put a hole in there. I'm just using the back of the spoon. Now the thicker you get your shells, the stronger that they're going to be, which is a good thing, right? But at the same time, the thicker you get your shells, the more chocolate you're going to be adding into your final hot chocolate. So you kind of want to balance getting them thick enough that they are strong enough to hold their shape, and but also not so thick that they don't melt when you pour in the warm milk, and not so thick that you just end up with, you know, European hot chocolate. Which, hey, there is a place for that thick hot chocolate, but it's not really a favorite here in the States. So, boo, boo, boo. So one of the ways that I help get these sides thicker the second time around is I actually take a, oh my word, I was trying to change the camera. The camera's not changing. I take a Silpat mat. Now this one is a little wet because I just washed it. And water and chocolate do not mix. So make sure it's dry before you do this. Okay. So I'm going to bring my Silpat mat in and flip and shake and encourage that chocolate to not like pool at the bottom, but to come down the sides. And I'm going to leave it over here for a couple minutes. Alexa, set timer for 2 minutes.
2 minutes, starting now.
All right, so now let's make our homemade hot chocolate mix. Now, this is the other area where you can really have fun with the flavors. Now, of course, if you have a favorite hot chocolate mix that you love, you can just use that. No big deal. There are so many brands and so many flavors already out there on the market. It's a great way to go. But I make my hot chocolate from scratch. I always have. And a couple years ago, my sister asked me for a powdered version of my hot chocolate because, oh, you guys, my hot chocolate really is so good. Anyway, the trick is the boiling water that makes the cocoa bloom and gives you better flavor. And then the rest is all the milk. Anyway, I've already done a video on the channel about that. So she asked me for a powdered version of my hot chocolate that she could take with her when her family was hiking to make their own. So I created this a couple years ago, and I've just never really shared it. So today we're gonna do that. So I start with powdered sugar. Now my normal recipe calls for granulated sugar, but for this I use powdered sugar. And the reason for that is granulated sugar is not just going to melt in warm milk, right? And so you want to use powdered sugar because that will melt better. Now we've got to remember when you're using a recipe that calls for granulated sugar and you sub out powdered sugar for it, you're going to want to double it. So if it calls for, like this recipe, half a cup of sugar, it's going to be a cup of powdered sugar. Now because I always make mine milk, I'm actually adding powdered milk. Now if I was just making this mix for chocolate bombs, you can go ahead and skip the dry milk. The dry milk, because we're going to be using real milk, but this is just, I just make a big batch of this. I keep it in a jar, and then my kids can make 1 cup at a time when I don't want to make a big, huge batch. So I always add the powdered milk. And then you know, most dry milk is low-fat milk, but you can buy dry whole milk, which is my favorite. Alexa, stop. Okay, it worked. All right. So I've had my mold sitting upside down for 2 minutes, and I'm going to flip it over and peel this off, and I'm going to put it in the fridge. So you can see the sides have already started to set, and they're going to be thicker. Alexa, set timer for 5 minutes.
5 minutes, starting now.
Okay, put that off to the side. Back to our almond hot chocolate. Now, our cocoa powder, you can use regular, or you can use dark, or you can use half and half. Salt, I use a teaspoon of salt. And then the real key to the best flavoring in homemade hot cocoa is vanilla. Now you can't put liquid vanilla in this, obviously, so you can buy powdered vanilla. It is really awesome. It can be a little tricky to find. There's a couple brands who make it. I found this at Walmart, actually, surprisingly enough. I thought I would have to order some from Amazon, but I usually make my own. And how you make your own is you take some vanilla bean pods, you put them in the oven at the lowest temperature your oven will go for about an hour, hour and a half until they get dry and crinkly, and then you run them through. You can use a food processor, but there's always like little chunky things left, and I want this to be a total powder, so I actually use a coffee grinder. I bought it just for stuff like this, and it's great, especially in small batches since I don't make a ton of this. Now, the store-bought stuff, you can sub out 1 for 1. So if it calls for a teaspoon of vanilla, you can use a teaspoon of this. The homemade stuff, hold on, I'll show you the texture of this. It is beautiful. The homemade stuff, so this is just the pods, the whole pods, just toasted and then ground up. Oh, it smells so good, you guys. This pure vanilla is a lot stronger, so I would use half of it. So when it calls for a teaspoon of vanilla, use half a teaspoon. That's what I'm going to do now. So I'll show you what this stuff looks like too, so you can see it. And then I just keep this, I just make small batches at a time, and I just keep it in a jar. Hold on. Now this stuff, you can tell it's not pure vanilla because, let's face it, it's white. Hold on. I don't know why spice jars all come with these. I mean, who's really sprinkling some of these spices on things? And my nails are too thick to get it off. Oh, the struggle. The struggle is real, guys. Come on, pop off. Oh, my word. I have to get my sharp knife out. There we go. Don't tell my knife guy I did that. All right, so you can tell it's not pure vanilla simply because it's white. So it's going to give you vanilla flavor in a powder, but it's not as strong or as pure as the make-yourself stuff. Anyway. All right, finally, if you're using this fresh, you can just whisk it up and serve it as is. But I like to add a tablespoon of cornstarch, and what that cornstarch does is it helps keep the mixture from caking, you know, getting thick and compacted, as if you are keeping larger batches of it. So, now we're just going to whisk it. Now, depending on if you use that milk or not, if you don't add the milk, you want to use about 2 tablespoons of this, maybe 3, depending on how much in 1 mug for regular hot chocolate. If you do add the powdered milk, you're going to use more just because that obviously dilutes it a little bit, makes the powder larger. I like mine super chocolatey, so I use more like 1/3 of a cup, which sounds like a lot, but I did the math on like my normal batch of hot chocolate, and that's what it would be, 1/3 of a cup of the powdered ingredients for like 1 cup of the wet ingredients, so it's pretty normal. Now sometimes you'll get some chunks because you're powdered sugar. You can always run this through a food processor if you feel like it's a little bit chunky. But anyway, homemade hot chocolate mix. And that vanilla and salt really add to the flavor. I see most recipes don't call for either of those, but I highly, 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 highly recommend it. Okay. So let's talk our filling, our mixes. If you're just making a normal hot chocolate bomb, you just want to use a normal hot chocolate mix like this one or others. If you're doing other flavors, for like example, peppermint, I added some, hold on, I already have some. I crushed up some candy cane, right? And I have that to use inside it for, Alexa, stop. For the peanut butter cup one, I added a little bit of powdered peanut butter. For the pumpkin spice one, I added a little bit of pumpkin pie spice. For an Oreo one, I would add some ground up Oreos. For an eggnog one, I would add some nutmeg. For, what were some of the flavors we talked about? Oh, raspberry. For like a raspberry chocolate one, I would grind up some freeze-dried raspberries. I would use raspberry oil in the chocolate shell and then use freeze-dried raspberries within the hot chocolate itself. So you can really be, I asked my girlfriends today what flavors they would do, and we came up with like easily 8 flavors that you could do. And if you really and my daughter really wants to try a gingerbread version, so I'm trying to figure that out, because they don't really make dried molasses. So I don't, and that's, so my friend Hillary recommended doing brown sugar, because brown sugar is sugar made with molasses, and maybe we'd get more of that gingerbread flavor. So I was going to powder up some, I was going to use my food processor and turn some brown sugar into some powdered brown sugar, and then use some gingerbread spices and give that a try and see if that had a nice gingerbread flavor. For the eggnog one, I was actually going to use nutmeg and then pour warm eggnog over it to make it melt. My friend Amber recommended sorry, I have like one hair that didn't get in my braid. It keeps falling and sticking to my lip gloss. A snickerdoodle one with white chocolate that maybe you roll into cinnamon sugar mixture, and I would add some cinnamon to the white chocolate, and I would also add some cinnamon to the hot chocolate mixture. So I'm sure that you guys could all come up with a ton of your own versions of different hot chocolate flavors to create for this, right? Pay attention to your problem. Kaylin, what is your problem? I don't know what it is. Sorry. Wow. We have a lot of talking going on. I'm so sorry. If you don't have chips, can you use cooking chocolate? Like Baker's Joy, or not Baker's Joy, like Baker's chocolate that doesn't have any sugar in it. I mean, it will melt, but because it doesn't have any sugar in it, it's not going to really be the flavor that you're looking for. So I would recommend looking for, like a chocolate bar would work better. Any bar of chocolate is going to be made to melt and doesn't have the same ingredient that chips do to hold their shapes at high temperature. So I would just chop up a chocolate bar and use that over baking chocolate. Now, if you have the bittersweet or the semi-sweet baking chocolate, you can totally use that. But that unsweetened baking chocolate, which is what I typically bake with, I wouldn't use that because obviously it's unsweetened. But that's a great question. Can you use Wilton chocolate? Yes, you can. Now, technically, none of their chocolate is chocolate, right? It's all candy with chocolate flavoring. But yes, it will melt beautifully and you can totally use it. Do you think Dove or Hershey's chocolate would work? Dave, yes, I do. Again, I would go with the bars because they are made they'll melt better and be smooth. This is perfect. You have to make a chocolate cake that has round balls that size on it. So it'd be perfect to put on the cake as decoration decked by chocolate cake. Yes, that would be amazing. Jocelyn, we are making homemade hot chocolate bombs. Okay, they've been in the fridge again, the outside shell. So we now have 2 coatings of this, and as you can see, they are a lot thicker than they were before. So what we can do now is start to pull them away, and I push on the back side with one finger. So you push and kind of peel. Once it gets to this point, I just kind of pull it, and then I put it back in sideways so that it's easy to grab later. And I do that with all of them. Because you don't want them to break. Now I do recommend making extras just in case something breaks. The good news is if something does break, you can just remelt it and it will and you can make it again. No big deal. Easy peasy, right? Okay. So we have all 6 of these. So now I'm going to bring over my griddle. So I use my griddle for this part. Oops. But you can use a pan that you heat on the stove. I just feel like my griddle is nice and even temperature. So I actually just turn it to the warm setting, just warm, nothing beyond that. But you can, of course, use like a pan. You can use a pan that you heat up on your stove top. I would recommend maybe using the back of the pan because they're so nice and flat. But again, you don't need it to be very warm. I just found that the griddle works really, really well, and it only takes a couple seconds to heat up. You're in a Zoom meeting, Jocelyn? That's awesome. Make sure you use the dark brown sugar with the gingerbread. Yes, Charlotte, that is a very good point. It has a much more molasses flavoring. You would love a really good recipe for beef stroganoff. Oh, wouldn't we all? Use Mexican brown sugar. Ooh, for more molasses flavor. You guys just fix everything. Thank you so much. What brand of powdered milk do you use? Whatever brand I can. Whatever brand I find, especially when it comes to the whole milk. I forget which brand has the whole milk version. I just searched for whole milk, whole dry milk powder on Amazon and found that. Sorry, I'm trying to keep up with... If something breaks, just eat it. Yes, Jill, that is always a good answer to. Or remelt it. Depends on how many that you need. Sorry, I'm scrolling through just to see if there was anything that was more immediate than I needed. Salted caramel would be good. Yes. My friend Amber brought that one up. We were trying to figure that out. Obviously, adding more salt. I would use... for the top decoration of a salted one, I would use the fleur de sel salt flakes on the top because they're just so stinking pretty. For the caramel itself, I think you'd want more like a homemade caramel that's soft anyway and would melt really well, because like the craft caramels you get at the store are just or the Peter's caramels that I use for making caramel apples, it's just a little too thick and you would just end up with like a caramel blob at the bottom. But like a really soft homemade caramel, I think would melt really beautifully and give you the flavor that you're looking for. Or of course, you could just add caramel sauce to the inside, but I try to keep the insides completely dry so that they have a little bit more shelf life. Once you start adding any liquids to it, it becomes a little bit more of a problem. Okay. You are watching. Okay, I think I'm all caught up with comments. Good question, thank you. Would you prefer, Margaret, will you put the recipes instructions on your site for your homemade vanilla too? Yes, I totally will. You guys, I'm the worst blogger in the world. I love doing these live streams, but I still have live streams that I did back in March that still aren't on my blog. So if somebody wants to be my ghostwriter, the pictures are done, the videos are done, the recipes are done. I just haven't sat down and done the blog post. Okay, I'm the worst. So this is nice and warm. And I'm going to take one of the chocolate halves, just put it down and swirl it and see how quickly it melts. I'm going to pick it straight up. So we have a nice flat working surface. I'm going to set that to the side and I'm going to do this to half, just half of our shells. As soon as it looks like the sides are completely smooth, I stop, because the more you do this, obviously it's going to start melting the cup and pretty soon you'll be left with very, very little. So straight up. Okay. Now, try to get this My griddle is so stinking big, you guys. I love it because it fits in the counter, and I have a big family, so I like making a lot of things at once, but it is hard to put on my filming surface. Okay. Now my phone's in the way. Okay. Out of the way. Whew. Here we go. So I have my 3 halves that I have melted. And now we're going to add, for the normal mix, I add 2 tablespoons of the dry powder. You can do 1.5, depends on how strong of a flavor you're looking for. I tend to like more chocolatey. I use, when we're at like a hotel, and they have just the dry packets, I always use 2 per cup because 1 is just never enough. If I'm making a peppermint version, let's say that we made a chocolate peppermint shell, I'm going to do, like, depending on how strongly you like your flavor, but I stick with like half a teaspoon of the crushed up peppermint. And I'm trying to keep them in the cups and not get it around the rims of this, because the rim needs to stick to the next one. Okay. So next, let's see, can you see that okay? Next, I'm going to add like a tablespoon and a half of the freeze-dried marshmallows. Now, you can also use normal marshmallows, where I have some. Hold on. There they are. Now, I ordered these from Amazon. Oh my word, I can't believe I couldn't think of the word Amazon for a second there. And if you'll notice, the manufacturer is Kraft. These are the same as the really expensive ones at the grocery store, but they're way cheaper when you buy them like this. Now you can use regular marshmallows if you prefer that in your hot chocolate. I kind of like the freeze-dried. It's kind of a fun thing. But just fit as many as you can without, I mean, you can have it go big because we're going to put a top on this. Just make sure it's not falling off the sides, right? Or you can even do shaped holiday marshmallows. Like inside the pumpkin ones, I use these pumpkin spice marshmallows. And I just did 2 of these big ones. I've also seen a lot of people who have added sprinkles inside here. Anything that you want, it's going to, when these pop open, they will pop out, right? I like the marshmallows because they float, but so do sprinkles, right? I'm trying to get this stuff out of there. Okay, so now we need to put them together. So these, we've already melted. It's nice and smooth and perfectly level. So what we're going to do now is take our next half, our other half, and do the same thing we did before, right? Get that side nice and melty, pull straight up, and then, hold on. Quickly, you want to put those together. Now because they're both flat, from melting, they should go together pretty easily. And I just take my finger along here and just smooth this out. Now if I notice that I maybe have a gap, like see right here where maybe the chocolate kind of broke a little bit. Now I use my fake nails. If you don't have fake nails, use like a spoon or something, and I just get some of that melted chocolate. Oh, not too much though, because then you'll create a bigger hole. Lovely, Ashley. Of course, my practice didn't do this. I'm so good at this, you guys. So talented. We're just going to stop with this one for now. I will add another little thing. Ooh, you know what? I have some of this broken stuff from over here. I'm just going to melt that onto it. There we go. See? This is obviously going to be the back of that one. There we go. Let's do another one and pretend it was this one. Make it nice and pretty. I would clean your fingers in between too. Otherwise you're going to be leaving fingerprints on your nice shiny chocolate like I'm doing right now. Alright, so put those together. Kind of press slightly but not too hard because you don't want to actually break any of this, right? Alright, that one looks good. Let's put this final one together. Press slightly and use your finger to just go along and make sure that that's nice and sealed. Okay. Ah, perfect. This one doesn't have a hole in it. Nice. Okay. You can hear it shaking. Can you guys hear that? With all the good inside stuff. Okay. I'm going to move this away. We'll talk about decorating. Okay. So, for decorating, what I'm going to do is you take some of this chocolate that we still have left melty, and I'm going to drizzle it on top. Now you can drizzle with like a fork, but I like to have more control on the thickness of my drizzle, so I'm going to take a triangle of parchment and make a parchment bag. Because you can get a really nice sharp point with parchment bags. I'm going to take a tall cup to hold my parchment bag. And pour my melted chocolate in. Fold my top down, and then as I squeeze this, we'll just have this little strand of chocolate come out, and if you want it thicker, you can just cut it a little thicker. So all right, so if you like it thin like this, just leave it like this. And this will hang down the sides. You can do as much or as little as you want, right? I tend to go like north, south, east, west, and then diagonal. So if you want to go a little thicker, I'm just going to cut the very tip of this off. And then I can do a thicker version of this. Like that. And if you want it even thicker, just cut a little bit more off. And, oop, right, do the same thing. There we go. Now, you can just leave this as is. It is very pretty. You can add crushed peppermint for your peppermint one. For these just plain marshmallow ones, I'm just adding some of the baby marshmallows on top. It's nice to add a topping simply because then you know what's inside, especially if they're all chocolate looking, right? Okay, that one I waited too long. That's not going to stick. My fault. So don't do all of them and then add it. Do one, add the topping, do one, add the topping. So for the ones that I made earlier today, I have my peppermint version, which has peppermint in the chocolate and peppermint inside. And I just added more crushed peppermint on top. I have my pumpkin spice one, which has 2 large pumpkin marshmallows inside and some of these melted pumpkin spice marshmallows. That's the outside of this, along with a little pumpkin spice added for the hot cocoa. And then I also made peanut butter cup. So this is peanut butter chips and chocolate chips outside shell. And then it has peanut butter powder in the hot chocolate to mix. And then it has just a couple peanut butter cups on top, just so that they know what it is, right? So let's see. And then I had a couple normal versions. And then the final way that you can change up your flavoring is to not just add milk. Like for the almond coconut one, the almond joy one I made earlier today, I used half coconut milk, half regular milk. Oh, I was gonna heat up some milk. Oh, what are we doing? I also did half milk, half eggnog for one, and I really liked that flavor. Boop, 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 boop. We have to show the melting. I don't know what I was thinking. Let's heat this up. In my brain, I was going to start that before we started the decorations, so it would be nice and warm right now. Anyway, so all the different ways you can change this up. You can change the coating by using chocolate and adding chocolate oils or oil flavoring, or by adding candy melts in different colors, different flavors, by adding mix-in, like adding crushed Oreos to white chocolate, or like my snickerdoodle version, adding cinnamon to white chocolate, and then the insides. You can do different flavors of hot cocoa mix, or you can make your own hot cocoa mix and then add different things like homemade pumpkin spice, or peppermints, or crushed Oreos, or dried peanut butter. Again, I try to keep the ingredients on the dry side. And then for the marshmallows, you can use the dehydrated marshmallows, you can use normal mini marshmallows, or you can do the large marshmallows, or fun shaped and flavored marshmallows. And then the final way you can change things up is your milks, right? I always like to use whole milk, but you can use different things like eggnogs or coconut milks and stuff like that to change up your flavor as well. So that is how you can really personalize and change things to make them your own. So hopefully that made sense to everybody. Does anybody have questions that I'll answer while we are heating up the milk? So, Alt, you said you're seeing lines? On my side of things, it says my stream is healthy, so I don't know where that's coming from. Is my hair made of candy? Nope, it is made of hair. I grew it myself. Courtney, this is chaos. Sorry you feel that way. The nut I use looks like eggnog, but warm. I'm not sure what that is. It's your dad's birthday, and you're going to make this and have donuts. Alterfoot, I hope that you guys enjoy it. You're supposed to be doing homework. I'm not. You're hurting my brain. I apologize. Oh, you could use nut water. That makes sense. Yes, you could. Let's see. Like I said, I would always use milk, not water. I do not like watery hot chocolate. I feel like it's pointless. But yes, you could do hot water if you want, especially make sure in that case though that you're going to be adding the dried milk to your hot chocolate mix from that. How much cocoa powder and powdered milk was there? Billy, if you just open up the description box over in YouTube, there will be the full recipe along with different variations, but it was cup powdered milk, cup powdered sugar, half a cup cocoa powder, a teaspoon of salt, and a teaspoon of vanilla powder, or if you're using the homemade stuff, half a teaspoon of the vanilla powder. You can't say it until you try. You can't see what I'm doing. You could use them as bath bombs. I mean, if you want chocolate in your bath, I guess you could, but I wouldn't. I would use bath bombs for your bath and these for your hot chocolate. Oh, ground Werther's hard caramel. Yolanda, you are brilliant. Yes, just like you can do with the peppermint candies for the peppermint version, you could totally grind up the Werther's hard caramel for this. See, I knew you guys would have good ideas. All right, I think I am caught up with all those. Could you add cream to your milk? Yes, I just use whole milk, but you totally can add cream to your milk to get it a little bit thicker. Do I have a vanilla bean preference? June, that's a great question. I don't think, oh, there it is. I had, there was a vanilla company that wanted to work with me a couple years ago. And so we met up, we talked, I used their vanilla, it was fine, I liked it, but it was a really high price tag, so I didn't end up buying more. But when I was talking with them and dealing with them, they mentioned how after they made their vanilla with their alcohol and vanilla and soaked it for so long, they had all these leftover vanilla beans, they didn't know what to do with them, and I told them to send them to me, that I would use them. So they sent me this big jar filled with leftover vanilla beans from them making vanilla. And I have been using this for 5 years now, and this is how far I'm down, because I make my own homemade vanilla sugar that I like to sprinkle on toast and sprinkle on top of different recipes, and I use on top of like creme brulee and stuff like that. And yeah, so it was full, and now it's down to here. And so it's not really a brand. It's just leftover vanilla for making homemade vanilla. And yeah, I just keep them in that jar and pull them out and scrape them if I need seeds, or dry them out if I need them for vanilla powder. So, great question. That's a good idea. Ashlee, you missed the beginning. Hi, Michelle. It's good to see you. But did you roast your powdered milk before you mixed it into your cocoa powder? I did not. I have never done that. But that is good to know that it adds to the flavor, because I will definitely try it. I love tips like that. That's awesome. Heath chips. Hope. That is a great suggestion. How do you make the chocolate halves? Lori, we melted compound chocolate, and we did 2 coatings in these molds and then popped them out. If you're over on YouTube, there's a link to the molds that I ordered in the description box, as well as a link to some powdered vanilla and compound chocolate. It looks good and so fun for kids. Yes, I have not let my kids play with these yet, just because I spent all day doing them. They were at school, but we will definitely be having some fun with these probably this weekend, and then I'll just let, in fact, I think we might be doing this for neighbor gifts this year, and I'll just let the kids make a ton. We'll put them in bags, and we'll deliver a couple balls to, I told my friends I wouldn't say the word balls, a couple of the bombs to various neighbors. Delightful, you're so making these, Sharon. I hope that you enjoy them. Also, don't forget, if you make anything that you see on in any of my videos or on my site, don't forget to tag me when you share an image on social media, and I will share it in my Instagram stories. How long does the chocolate stay warm before remelting it? It depends on the quality of your chocolate. So we started melting these an hour ago, right? And the bottom is still really melty, but it's definitely thicker than it was before. And the sides over here where I've scraped it have started to harden. So I would probably just put this back on my melt chocolate cycle for like 30 seconds and re-stir it, and it would all be melted again. It doesn't take very much. You're thinking making some of these for your daughters and sending to friends for Christmas? Yes. Will this be able to rewatch? Yes, Kim. This will totally be available to rewatch. In fact, I think while you're watching it, you could even go back and start it from the beginning. But I'm not 100% sure on that one. You think I might like this, Jeanette? Watching with you. Looks like somebody asked a question. I'm trying to find where to find something, but I'm not sure what they're asking where to find. Oh, my molds. I ordered these from Amazon. I will, after I'm done with the live stream, I will go get a link. Oh, good. I just started to see some smoke from this, so we are ready to go. I'll add a link. And Brooklyn, where's that clear mug? Oh, okay. Clear mugs are nice because then you can like see it melt. Okay. So we will do one of the normal ones. Hold on. Boop. Okay. Like all my chocolate drizzle on my counter. Probably should have done that over a saw pat mat. All right, so when your mug is a little bit narrow, I recommend, there we go, just kind of carefully doing it in. If you just plop it and let it fall and drop, you will actually, it could break, right? And that kind of gets rid of the fun of doing this. Sarah, love, love, love this video. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. White chocolate with colored candy melts would be really pretty, 100%. Another thing that I thought of was melting your chocolate in 2 different containers, like a red chocolate and a green chocolate, and then just putting a plop of each into your molds, and then as you, I don't know why I'm doing this without a mold, there's mold here, and as you kind of shake it around to get that outside coloring, right? And then just make sure as you smooth the inside not to scratch that, and you could get some fun marble swirls. I was going to do that and I just forgot. Scraper. This is how I clean my counters of this stuff. There we go. Obviously I'm going to use a rag too, but this at least just gets us started. Okay. Let's talk about heating your milk. You don't want to actually bring it to a boil or a simmer. You just want to be able to see a couple little bubbles along the side, because you don't want it to get a skin, and you don't want to burn your milk, right? You just want this to be at a nice little simmer with bubbles at the side. Okay. Let's do this. And there it goes, opening up, yay. Oh, I got the big marshmallow one. I wasn't sure which one it was gonna be. And then you just stir it all together. But the kids love watching it explode, and that's why it's also fun to add things like sprinkles to it, or big marshmallows are super fun to add. And if you did it right, it should all melt pretty easily and quickly. High quality chocolate makes a difference. Like we talked about using chocolate chips, they aren't made to melt, so they won't melt as well, and you'll just kind of end up with big globs of warm chocolate. And by using powdered sugar, the sugar will melt really well. And there we go. You can see the chocolate ball on the sides. But anyway, that is how it's done. It's really hot milk. So creamy, really thick, really rich. I like making sure that my milk is really, really warm, one, so that it makes sure that it melts the ball. Not so hot that it's burnt, but really, really warm. And the other reason for really, really warm milk is chocolate actually will get a better flavor if it blooms. And so by making sure that the milk is as hot as possible just before boiling, it will help the powdered cocoa also give you a better flavor in the end. And that is it. I will scroll through and make sure that I answered as many questions as I can find. I am so sorry if I missed any. If I missed your question, it was earlier, you can go ahead and type it again. But otherwise, I will see you guys next week, and I will make some of the Disney, maybe normal Disney treats or Disney Halloween treats that I like, the Halloween stuff that I tried when I was there last week. So let me know if you prefer seasonal Disney Halloween treats or just normal Disney treats remade. And I will see you guys same time next week. Okay. This is cool. That's cool. I know, right? Isn't it? Ashlee Marie Coleman. We do have the same name. You know, I would say about 80% of the Ashleys I've met in my lifetime have all had the middle name Marie. It just flows so well. Ashlee Marie. Flows so well together. Pulling curls, winded balls get mentioned. I meant bombs. Hillary, you are hilarious and I love you. White chocolate with colored candy melts would make it really pretty. Yes. How do I feel about candy melts for these hot chocolate bombs? They totally work. Any chocolate that is made to melt and be a coating is going to work really well to create these bombs. But I will say I personally prefer the flavor of better quality chocolate because it melts into the milk and it becomes a part of the hot chocolate flavor. And I just don't love the flavor of melted candy melts, but they're just so pretty, it's hard not to want to do. So I would consider maybe using that just as the drizzle and decoration. And maybe after you drizzle one side and it dries, flip it over and drizzle the other side and let it dry, and then like do the sides, and you could really get some color coating all over the bomb without it being the whole shell. So you're still getting that amazing flavor from a higher quality chocolate shell. I like Guittard's or Merkin's compound chocolate for the shell. But yes, you can totally use candy melts. They will work wonderfully for this. Just consider the flavor. Michelle, you really love this. Thank you so much. I'm so glad you did. Do you have vanilla beans have a certain point where they go bad? Not that I have found. Like I said, I've had these for a couple of years. These were all soaked in vodka to make vanilla, and there's still a little bit in here, and the alcohol keeps them from going bad at all. But once they're dried out, like a dried vanilla bean, I've never seen a dried vanilla bean go bad. That doesn't mean they don't. I have just not seen it. So I wouldn't worry about that. You look forward to my videos every Tuesday. Paige, that is so sweet. I really appreciate that. You wish you joined it when this started and you just heard it today, Cassandra. This will be available forever. So you can totally rewatch from the beginning. You can even watch it at a 2x speed. And all the instructions are in the description box. So many good options. Yes. You just joined this by accident. Well, I hope that you enjoyed it, Tactical Rocket Turtle. I love accidental finds that I enjoy, so you never know what YouTube is going to recommend or suggest. What about instant cappuccino? 100%. You can totally make a coffee version of these with instant cappuccino or instant any of those instant coffee things for sure. That's going to be explosion in your mouth. Yes, it is definitely richer than my normal hot chocolate because of the addition of that melted chocolate, but not to the point that it's too much. But of course, I'm a chocolate fanatic, so I don't know that it could ever be too much. Cooking with Sherry, Christmas gifts. You were so making these, right? Big Mini Life, that was cool to wash. Yes. Baroque Baker, if you drink alcohol, a shot of rum makes a nice evening drink. Yes, I'm sure it does. Paige, Disney Halloween treats. Good vote. Okay. All cut up over there. You vote for Disney Halloween treats. Kipper! I haven't seen you in forever. I miss you. Margaret, you'll be on vacation visiting your sister in Illinois, and you'll both be watching. Oh, I hope she enjoys it. Thank you. You're so sweet. Watch me on vacation. That makes me feel so special. What kind of chocolate did you use and where did you get it? Thanks, Kelly. Great question. I use Guittard dark chocolate wafers. I use compound chocolate because it's not pure chocolate, so it melts beautifully, but you don't have to temper it the way you'd have to do with like a couverture chocolate. It has more like chocolate fat in it, so it melts well. You can get it on Amazon. You can just search compound chocolate and the Merkin's pops right up. There's a local restaurant supply store near me that sells them in bulk. That's where I got this. So yeah. I also really like Trader Joe's chocolate. I have not tried using it for these, but it does melt really well and has a great flavor and is really high quality. So I'll have to test them on the bombs and see if it holds the shape of the mold as well, because that's a good price and really high quality. Oh my God, you love this. Thank you. I'm so glad. It's so much fun to watch, right? I should make like a really big one. So I'm trying to scroll through and find the comments more than just the ones saying they're watching. I appreciate those too. Cynthia, it's like you're in my brain. You were looking at recipes earlier to make this yourself. How long can you store them? Margaret, that's a great question. Depending on how hot your house is, obviously it's winter now, these should be okay on the counter, but if it is summer, I would consider storing them in the refrigerator. Not the freezer though, because that does make your chocolate bloom. But I mean, as long as it's not warm and so they don't melt, there's nothing in here that shouldn't last, right? All of these ingredients, the dry chocolate mix will last for months and months and months. Nothing is in here that's going to go bad quickly. I would definitely put them in bags so that they're not getting dust and stuff on them, obviously. I haven't tried it, so I can't say like based on my tests it lasts this long, but I would say based on an educated guess of these ingredients and stuff like that, really the only thing I need to worry about is the marshmallows. If you use regular marshmallows, you have to worry about them drying out. If you use the freeze-dried marshmallows, that's not really too much of a concern. I would say they would last months if you use the freeze-dried marshmallows and all dry ingredients inside, and you keep your chocolate in some kind of plastic. The regular marshmallows is going to have a much shorter shelf life. You could also use homemade marshmallows, then the shelf life will be very short. I asked my daughter this morning as we were prepping for this and making it, I'm like, do I have time to make a batch of homemade marshmallows to throw in here? And we decided that I didn't. But you guys know how much I love my homemade marshmallows. I did a video last year with 4 different flavors of homemade marshmallows. And I definitely plan on, for the neighbor gifts that I'll be making, I definitely plan on using homemade marshmallows for those. I would say for those though, the shelf life would just be a couple days before those homemade marshmallows start to dry out. But yeah, with the freeze-dried marshmallows, I would say a couple months easily. So how do you wrap or seal them? That's a great question, Megan. I would get some cellophane bags. I would just make sure that you got like 2.5 inch, 3 inch bags. You can put them in here and seal them and add a gift tag to them. If you're trying to put a couple in a bag, right? If you're trying to put like 3 in a bag, then maybe like 5 inch bags. Or you can get tall ones and like stack them and put 3 in a stack, and then you could still go with like the 3 inch, like maybe a bottle bag. You could fit a couple in there stacked. But yeah, cellophane bags, they come in so many different shapes and sizes, and that's how I would gift them. For storing them, I would just use, I'm just going to put these in a Ziploc bag, right? And keep them sealed and on a flat surface. Hi, Morgan. Hello. Will the Ghirardelli's chocolate work well for making these? Yes, as long as you get a good compound chocolate, then they should work great. Again, I would avoid the chips because they're made to hold their shapes, but any of their other chocolate would work really well. And they are on the list along with Peter's are of chocolates that I recommend. And you're going to make these, they look so good, thank you. Would it be better dark or milk chocolate? I would say the darker side, semi-sweet, bittersweet, and dark chocolates would be what I would make, just because they get firmer and they hold their shape so much better, and they have a higher melting temperature. The milk chocolate, I would just worry about not holding their shape. If it's at all warm in your house, I worry about them, drooping. Totally awesome. Hello guys, okay. Yes, you can use the molds for bath bombs, but these are not bath bombs. Does that answer that question? Does the peanut powder get gloppy when mixed? Not that I noticed. I didn't have that problem with my test one, but I've only done one that I melted, and so maybe I just got lucky. You vote for either treats. Walt Disney would be good. You'd love to see something seasonal. Thank you, Tara. Okay, I believe droopy ball, so sad. Yes, Hillary, that is so sad. Do you put these in a cup with boiling water in it? No, Georgiana, I put them in a mug like this. Hold on. There's like little marshmallows in here from when I spilled them earlier. Let's see. Oh, we'll do one of the peanut butter ones right now to test the theory. So I put the bomb in the bottom of a mug, And I think my my milk should still be pretty warm. Funny. I put my milk back on the warm burner on accident, and I got like a little skin of milk. That's not great. I had to get a little bit of skin since it was back on the warm thing, so I'm going to use this. All right. And then while I put the bomb in first, and then I pour the warm milk over the top. I don't know if this is warm enough to make it explode. We'll see. Because it's been over here chilling. But anyway, usually you just pour the warm milk over the top and it'll melt the chocolate and the bomb will explode open. Obviously we're not getting that. The milk is not quite as warm as it was before. Come on, there we go. I knew at some point it would start to come out. And then it explodes open like that. And then you just stir everything together. And all of the powdered dry ingredients should just totally dissolve in that warm milk, and the chocolate should melt really beautifully. If your milk has been sitting cooling for about 10 minutes, then you might want to reheat it a little bit. Okay, but even with my milk not being super warm, other than some chocolate chunks from the shell, it looks like all the powder dissolved really quickly, even the peanut butter powder. I don't see any globs of that. All I see left are the mold, chocolate mold. Anyway, the chocolate from the outer shell. So, and this is the one we did earlier. Look how small my marshmallows got. Anyway. Okay, I think, use a box with cupcake cups. Yes, you could use, you don't have to use the ball shaped mold. You could use a cupcake pan. Can you put them in the fridge in an airtight container? Yes, you can totally put them in the fridge. It's cold enough now in my house and like weather-wise that I'm just going to keep them on my counter. But if I notice that like they start to dip or bend or lose their shape, then I would refrigerate them. Yeah, these should be fine. Just think about your chocolate itself. Is your chocolate melting on the counters? Then it needs to be refrigerated. If your chocolate isn't melting, then it doesn't need to be refrigerated. Okay, I think I have answered everything. So I am going to, let me double check. I'm going to say goodbye, and I will see you guys next week. Thank you again so much for watching, and next Tuesday we will be doing Halloween Disney treats. So see you then. Now it's time to say goodbye. I'll even wear my Mickey Halloween shirt that I made. This week says all the good things because I figured that worked well for these hot chocolate bombs. So see you next week. Thanks for watching.